Chris Evans was walking through a quiet neighborhood in Los Angeles, enjoying the silence and the gentle morning breeze. That's when he noticed something that made him stop. A small lemonade stand, simple, with a handmade sign that read, "Lemonade, a cup of happiness for $1." Behind the table stood a young girl with voluminous curls and a shy smile, waving at the few passers-by. Curious and with a light smile, Chris approached. As he handed over the money and took his cup of lemonade, he noticed something in the girl's eyes, a spark mixed with a quiet sadness. This was no ordinary lemonade stand. The reason behind her selling lemonade hid a secret that would break his heart and change everything. Before we continue this story, let us know where you're watching from. If you enjoy stories like this, subscribe to the channel, because tomorrow at 12:30 p.m., we have another special story for you. The sun was shining lazily in the Los Angeles sky, as a gentle breeze swayed the leaves of the trees lining the quiet residential streets. Chris Evans, casually dressed in jeans and a white shirt, walked leisurely, enjoying the calm of the neighborhood. It was a rare moment for him, a pause between shoots and commitments, a small break to reconnect with the simplicity of everyday life. As he strolled past a quiet corner, something caught his attention. A makeshift lemonade stand. It was simple, consisting of a folding table covered with a white cloth, a glass pitcher filled with a yellow beverage, and neatly arranged plastic cups. A small handwritten sign read, "Lemonade, a cup of happiness for $1." Chris smiled to himself. It had been years since he had seen something like this, a scene that took him back to his childhood. Moved by genuine curiosity, he approached. Behind the stand, a young girl with curly hair and a shy smile watched the street attentively, waiting for customers. She didn't look older than 12. "Hi," he greeted warmly. "Is this a lemonade stand? I haven't seen one of these in years." The girl's eyes widened briefly, clearly surprised to recognize the actor, but she quickly composed herself. "Yes, sir. It's $1 a cup," she replied, extending her hand with a plastic cup, trying to hide her excitement. Chris chuckled softly and reached into his pocket, pulling out a $5 bill. He handed it to the girl. "I'll take one, but you can keep the change. That way you already have a generous customer to start your day." Clara, as her name was embroidered on the apron she wore, flashed a wide smile, a mix of gratitude and surprise. Carefully, she poured a cup of lemonade. "Thank you. I hope you like it." Chris took the cup and sipped. The refreshing tang of the drink lit up his face. "This is delicious. You know, I think you might have the best lemonade in the city," he said playfully. Clara laughed, a light and genuine sound. "Well, I'm glad you like it." As he took another sip, Chris noticed something special about the dark curls framing Clara's face. "Oh, and I have to say, I love your hair. Those curls are amazing." Clara blinked, surprised, before blushing slightly. "Really? Thanks. Not everyone likes it. Some girls at school think it's weird, and sometimes I think about straightening it to look more like them." Chris tilted his head thoughtfully. "You know, I've never understood this idea of everyone wanting to look the same. Your hair is unique, and that's a good thing. Trust me, the world needs more unique things." Clara was quiet for a moment before smiling, a different sparkle in her eyes. "Well, I'm glad you like it. I think I'll keep it this way." Chris kept the conversation going, noticing how Clara seemed to alternate between moments of enthusiasm and a certain distance. He decided not to push her, but something about her posture and the way she answered questions intrigued him. "So," he began casually, "what made you set up this stand? Did you decide to become an entrepreneur?" Clara hesitated, fidgeting with an empty cup she held. "Oh, I just thought it would be a good idea for the summer," she replied, in a tone that seemed carefully chosen. Chris sensed there was more behind that vague response. He decided to change the subject, keeping the atmosphere light. "Well, you definitely have a talent for this. The lemonade is great, and I'd say I'm almost an expert." Clara laughed again, visibly more relaxed. "Really? An expert on lemonade?" "Yes, but don't tell anyone," Chris joked, winking. Time seemed to slow down as they talked, but Chris couldn't ignore the feeling that Clara was hiding something. Before leaving, he decided to leave a promise in the air. "I think I'll come back for more of this lemonade tomorrow, and maybe hear more about how you're so good at theater too." Clara blinked, surprised at the mention of theater, but smiled softly. As Chris walked away, a persistent thought lingered in his mind. What was behind that lemonade stand, and the young entrepreneur who seemed to carry more than her age suggested? Chris Evans wasn't the type of person to make promises he couldn't keep. The next morning, he returned to the corner where Clara had set up her lemonade stand. This time, he carried a bag of fresh fruit he had bought at the local market. "Good morning, Clara," he greeted her with his signature smile. "I thought you might be able to use these to add a little extra flair to your stock." Clara, visibly surprised, broke into a wide smile upon seeing the fruit. Wow, thank you, sir. This is amazing, but you really didn't have to go out of your way. It was no trouble at all, Chris replied casually. Besides, this is the best lemonade in Los Angeles. I have to make sure it stays that way. Clara laughed as she inspected the fruit. Well, I guess I could try making strawberry lemonade or maybe lemon with mint. Chris settled into a plastic chair beside the stand, pretending to be just another customer. He noticed Clara seemed more at ease with him now. She no longer avoided eye contact or hesitated before answering, but there was still a trace of caution in her words. So, Clara, do you enjoy doing this? You seem to have a knack for business, he asked casually. Clara shrugged, fiddling with the cups on the stand. I like talking to people, and it keeps me distracted. Distracted from what? Chris asked, his tone neutral. Clara hesitated, as if she had revealed more than she intended. Oh, nothing much. Just school stuff, you know, and other things. Sensing it was better to change the subject, Chris pointed to her apron. That's a stylish apron. Did you embroider your name yourself? Clara smiled, relaxing again. My mom did. She said if I was going to set up a stand, I needed my name on it to look professional. She's right. It looks very professional, Chris praised. As the day went on, their conversation flowed more easily. Clara revealed that she loved theater and had taken classes at school until recently. I loved it, she said, her eyes lighting up. It was the one place where I could have fun and forget about everything. Chris nodded, encouraging her to continue. Theater is incredible. It teaches you to express yourself and be brave. I bet you were great at it. Clara blushed, laughing softly. I wasn't that good, but it was fun. When Chris asked why she had stopped attending classes, Clara's expression shifted. She looked away, fidgeting nervously with the stacked cups. Oh, it just got complicated. Chris noticed her hesitation and decided not to press further. He stood up, pretending to examine the stand sign. Well, at least you can still sell the best lemonade in the city, right? Clara smiled again, grateful for the change of topic. A few customers began to show up, and Chris observed how Clara treated each one with a genuine smile and admirable kindness. But he also noticed something else, a shadow of sadness that seemed to linger even in her lightest moments. As the customers left, Chris said his goodbyes. Tomorrow I think I'll want more of this amazing lemonade, but more importantly, I want to hear more about your theater. It seems like there's a great story there. Clara smiled, but Chris noticed something different in her expression. For a brief moment, it looked like she wanted to share more, but she chose to hold back. He walked away, already set on returning the next day. As he strolled down the street, Chris couldn't help but wonder what was really behind that lemonade stand. And more importantly, how could he help Clara share her story? The next day, Chris returned to the corner where Clara had set up her lemonade stand, carrying something different this time, a small basket with fresh fruits and a jar of artisanal honey. Clara looked up and smiled as she saw him approaching. Good morning, Clara. I thought you might like to try out some new recipes, said Chris, setting the basket down on the makeshift table. Clara's eyes widened at the sight of the fruits and honey. You're so kind. I don't even know what to say. You don't have to say anything, Chris replied simply, pulling up a chair to sit down. Besides, it's a fair trade. I get the best lemonade in the city, and you get some extra ingredients, Clara laughed, visibly more comfortable with Chris's presence. As she began preparing the lemonade, he seized the opportunity to spark a conversation. So yesterday you mentioned you liked theater, Chris began casually. If you could do anything in the world, what would it be? Clara paused for a moment, absent-mindedly stirring the lemonade pitcher. I'd go back to doing theater, she said wistfully. I was so happy there, but things got complicated at home. Chris tilted his head, his curiosity piqued. Complicated how? Clara hesitated, biting her lower lip. My mom has been overwhelmed since my dad lost his job, so I wanted to help in any way I could. Chris noticed the maturity in Clara's words, unusual for someone her age. He decided to tread carefully. You're very responsible for your age, you know, but Clara, helping doesn't mean you have to carry everything on your own. Clara gave a shy smile. My mom does so much for me and my brother. I just want to give back, you know? Chris picked up on the fact that she mentioned her brother for the first time and chose to keep listening. Your family sounds very important to you. That's amazing. But you also deserve to pursue your dreams. Clara sighed but didn't respond. Instead, she turned her attention to a customer who had just walked up. Chris watched as she interacted with the man, always polite and cheerful. Yet he noticed that as soon as the customer left, Clara's subtle melancholy returned. Determined to lighten the mood, Chris shared a personal experience. You know, Clara, when I was younger, I went through some really tough times too. Once someone told me that sometimes, to help others you need to take care of yourself first. That completely changed how I saw things. Clara looked at him, clearly intrigued. Do you think it's selfish to do something for yourself? Not at all, Chris replied sincerely. In fact, taking care of yourself can give you even more strength to help others. Clara seemed to be reflecting on his words when she commented, almost unintentionally, I just wanted to help, especially now, with everything that's going on. Chris recognized the weight of her statement, but Clara quickly changed the subject as another customer approached. He decided not to press her further, but felt there was something deeper behind her lemonade stand and her restrained smile. Before leaving, Chris said in a reassuring tone, You're incredibly strong, Clara. I'm sure everything will work out. And tomorrow, I'll be back to try your new strawberry lemonade. Clara smiled, but Chris noticed a glimmer of vulnerability in her eyes. He left the corner feeling like he was getting closer to understanding the truth, but he knew it would take patience for Clara to fully trust him. Chris returned the next day, determined to deepen his connection with Clara, perhaps finally understand what motivated her to set up that lemonade stand. This time he brought a small gift, a box of paints and brushes. I thought you might want to customize your stand a bit more, he said, placing the gift on the table. Clara stared at the brushes and paints with a mix of surprise and gratitude. This is amazing, thank you so much. I've always wanted to paint something of my own, but I never had the materials. Well, now you do, Chris replied with a smile. And if you need help, I'm great with brushes, or at least that's what I like to believe. They both laughed, and Clara began to relax as she arranged the paints beside the pitcher of lemonade. Chris noticed that the gift seemed to break down another layer of Clara's emotional reserve. After a few minutes of light conversation, he decided to carefully approach the subject. You know, Clara, you have an incredible talent for connecting with people and a strength that's rare for someone your age. I'm curious, what exactly made you set up this stand? Clara paused what she was doing, biting her lip. She seemed to be deciding whether or not to answer. Finally, she sighed and looked at Chris, her eyes glistening with restrained emotion. It's my brother, she began, her voice low. He has cancer. My mom didn't want anyone to know. She said we could handle it ourselves, but I wanted to help somehow. Chris remained silent for a moment, letting Clara continue at her own pace. She took a deep breath and started speaking more openly. It all started a few months ago when he began feeling sick. After several tests, we found out it was cancer. Since then, my mom has done everything to take care of him. She works all the time, and still manages the house. I see how tired she is, and I wanted to take some of the burden off her shoulders. Chris felt a pang in his chest as he listened to her story. He looked at Clara, admiring her maturity and determination. You're an incredible person, Clara. What you're doing is extraordinarily brave. Clara lowered her eyes, fidgeting with her apron. Sometimes I feel like it's not enough. The stand helps a little, but it's still so little compared to what my mom needs. And my brother, he's getting worse. I just wanted to do something that could really make a difference. Chris leaned forward, speaking gently. You know, accepting help is also an act of courage. You don't have to do everything on your own. There are so many people who would be happy to help if they knew your story. Clara seemed to struggle against tears, but finally nodded. I just didn't know how to tell people. I didn't want my mom to get upset. Chris placed a comforting hand on the table, not touching her directly, but close enough for her to feel his presence. We'll figure this out. Trust me, Clara. You're not alone. In that moment, Clara looked at him with a mix of hope and relief. For the first time, it seemed like the weight she carried was starting to lift, even if only slightly. As Chris said goodbye, he left her with a promise. Tomorrow, we'll start turning this stand into something even bigger. Your lemonade deserves to be known by the whole neighborhood. And more importantly, so does your story. Clara nodded, still emotional, but with a shy smile that hinted she was beginning to believe in something that had seemed impossible for a long time, that things might actually get better. The next day, Chris arrived at Clara's lemonade stand early, so early that she hadn't even finished setting everything up. He carried a large foldable canopy, a brand new folding table, and a hand-painted sign he'd worked on the night before. The sign read, Clara's Lemonade, made with love, surrounded by cheerful drawings of smiling lemons. Clara was speechless when she saw the transformation Chris had prepared. I don't even know what to say. You did all this for me. Of course, Chris replied with a smile. Now your stand looks as good as your lemonade, and trust me, no one will be able to resist a sign like this. Clara laughed, tears welling in her eyes. You really didn't have to do all this. Oh, but I did, he said as he helped set up the canopy. Because I believe in you. And with this new stand, people will believe in you too. As they worked together to set everything up, Chris and Clara brainstormed ways to attract more customers. Chris suggested Clara try out some new recipes, using the fruit he had brought the day before. How about a strawberry lemonade with honey? He suggested. Clara's eyes widened. That sounds amazing. I think I'll try it right now. She began crafting the new recipe while Chris adjusted the sign and organized the cups. As the day went on, more and more customers started to show up, drawn by the stand's fresh new look and Clara's infectious enthusiasm. A woman walking by stopped to admire the sign. Lemonade made with love, huh? I think I'll give it a try, she said with a smile. Clara carefully poured the lemonade, watching nervously as the woman took her first sip. This is delicious, the customer exclaimed, turning to Chris. Are you her dad? Chris chuckled. No, just a loyal customer. But I agree, it's the best lemonade in the city. The woman smiled and placed a $5 bill in the money jar. I'll take another to go and keep the change. Clara beamed, visibly moved, as she prepared the second cup. With each customer that stopped by, the stand seemed to come to life more and more. Later, when the rush died down, Clara walked over to Chris, holding a freshly made cup of lemonade. She handed it to him with a smile. This one's on the house. It's the least I can do to thank you for everything you've done. Chris accepted the cup, pretending to think it over. Well, if it's as good as everyone says, I don't think I'll turn it down. They both laughed and Clara finally looked more at ease. For the first time in weeks, it seemed like she could breathe without the weight of her burdens pressing down her. Before leaving, Chris made another cryptic promise. You know, Clara, this is just the beginning. Your stand is already amazing, but I think we can make it something even bigger. Clara looked at him curiously. Bigger how? Chris winked at her, leaving the mystery in the air. You'll find out soon, trust me. Clara smiled, intrigued but excited for what was to come. As Chris walked away down the street, he was already planning the next step. This wasn't just about the lemonade stand. It was about changing Clara's life and showing her that kindness and teamwork could create something truly extraordinary. One day, as Clara served customers, Chris walked into a nearby grocery store and struck up a casual conversation with the owner. Mr. Gonzalez, have you tried Clara's lemonade over on the corner? It's amazing, and the girl is such an inspiration. She's doing it to help her family. Mr. Gonzalez raised an intrigued eyebrow. Helping her family? What happened? Without delving into too much detail, Chris explained. She's raising money to help with some challenges at home. For someone so young, she's incredibly dedicated. I think more people should know about what she's doing. Moved by the story, Mr. Gonzalez promised to visit the stand later. Chris shared the story with other local shopkeepers like the bakery owner and the barber on the corner. Before long, Clara began to notice a significant increase in customers. With the community's support, Clara's stand underwent yet another transformation. A neighbor donated comfortable chairs for customers. Someone else brought a colorful tablecloth, and a local artist, captivated by Clara's story, painted a mural beside the stand with the phrase, "The most special lemonade in Los Angeles." Clara was deeply touched by the changes. She never imagined her small lemonade stand could become a gathering spot for so many people. Each customer brought a smile and words of encouragement. One afternoon, as business slowed down, Clara looked at Chris curiously. Why are you doing all this for me? Chris leaned against the newly donated table and replied simply, because the world needs more people like you, Clara. You're doing your part to help your family. I'm just helping others see that. Clara was silent for a moment before smiling. Thank you. I don't know what I'd do without you. As the days passed and Clara's stand grew increasingly popular, she began to notice a man who seemed to appear regularly, but always kept his distance. He stood on the other side of the street, watching the stand from afar. One afternoon, he made brief eye contact with Clara, smiled faintly and left before she could say anything. Did you see that man? Clara asked Chris. Chris nodded but played it down. Maybe he's curious. Who knows? Maybe tomorrow he'll stop by for a lemonade. Although he acted nonchalant, Chris had also noticed the man's frequent presence and decided to stay vigilant. To celebrate the stand's success, Chris suggested hosting a small community event. He spread the word around the neighborhood, inviting everyone for a special afternoon at Clara's stand. People showed up enthusiastically, offering support through purchases, kind words, and even spontaneous donations. Clara was glowing as she served lemonade non-stop. For the first time in a long while, she felt everything was moving in the right direction. Later in the evening, as Clara closed up the stand, her mother arrived with an expression of relief on her face. Clara, that man you saw today, he came to talk to me, she said. Who is he? Clara asked, Intrigued. An old acquaintance of your father's. He gave me this. Her mother held up a business card and explained that the man owned a local company and had offered her a job. Clara smiled, feeling a wave of renewed hope. Chris, observing the exchange, said, "It seems like big changes are on the way. I knew something good would come from this stand." As Clara packed up her things and reflected on the day's events, she couldn't help but wonder, who exactly was that man, and how did he know about their situation? Chris, with his calm demeanor, knew fate was beginning to work in Clara's favor, but he still had more plans up his sleeve. Later that afternoon, the mysterious man Clara had seen before approached the stand. This time he didn't linger at a distance. Instead, he spoke directly with Clara's mother, who had come to help at the stand. They spoke in hushed tones, but Clara could see her mother's face light up with relief. When the man left, her mother revealed, "He's an old acquaintance of your father's. He wants to help our family. He said he can arrange special treatment for your brother, and is also going to help me find a more stable job." Clara was speechless. It felt like suddenly, all the pieces were beginning to fall into place. Later, as they packed up the stand, Chris turned to Clara. "See, when you open your heart, good things start to happen. You don't have to carry it all on your own." Clara smiled, her eyes glistening with tears. "I never could have done this without you." Chris shook his head. "You've always had that strength, Clara. I just helped show it to the world. And by the way, this isn't over yet. Big things are still coming." The weeks that followed brought significant changes for Clara and her family. The lemonade stand remained busy, now a symbol of unity and hope for the neighborhood. With the community's support and Chris's encouragement, Clara raised enough money to cover part of her brother's medical expenses, while her mother started a new job thanks to the mysterious man's connections. With financial stability starting to take shape, Clara was finally able to return to her theater classes. "I never imagined selling lemonade could change my life so much," she said to Chris, before heading to her first class. "You changed your life, Clara," Chris replied. "I was just here to remind you that you could." The lemonade stand became a permanent fixture in the neighborhood, now run by other residents. Inspired by Clara's story, it began raising funds for other causes, creating a ripple effect of kindness and solidarity. As Clara resumed her dreams and her family found balance, her story continued to inspire others. For many, it all started with a lemonade stand, but it ended with a powerful lesson: the strength of kindness, courage, and unity. Before saying goodbye to Chris before her last theater class, he smiled and said, "Remember, most of what you need is already inside you. The rest, life will help you find it." If you enjoyed this story, we have many more that will warm your heart. Click the screen to explore more stories of hope, compassion, and resilience.